Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission meeting. Hello. Where's your gavel? Yeah, I know I need it. Maybe I'll break it. Oh, oh, oh. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting. The date, July 24th, 2024. The time is 4 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
City Attorney Doctor here. City Manager Burton
Here.
Commissioner Dean here. Commissioner Logan
Here.
Commissioner Reed here. Commissioner Shirtliff
Here.
Mayor Collins
here. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena's City Commission Administrative Meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Commissioners, comments, questions? I just got, Mr. Manager, would you give us an update on that 5-way sign down there by Neil and mini malfunction, whatever it is, because I've been receiving emails. Half of them say, we love it. Time going fast. Other people say it's not safe because we can't cross. So,
So, Mayor, you'll recall at the last commission meeting, Director Lafayette did do the process first. Based on that, there's backup equipment that we might be able to acquire from MDP. Knowing full well this is a larger project down the road that we don't want to waste money on new equipment, if possible. And at the same time, we're getting good response from at least traffic goers that it's working very smooth. The question that we've asked of our transportation department is, do we put the temporary lights in or do we leave it as is? But I think what needs a little more work is the safety issues without the lights versus the way it's working now. And we haven't had time to totally digest that, so we're still working on that.
Okay. Thanks. Any other commission comments? Okay, board appointments. I'm recommending the following board appointments. All advisory board. Appointment of Jeremy Bachelet set to an interim term on the Golf Advisory Board. Interim term will expire October 31st, 2026. Helena Housing Authority. Appointment of Brooke Pursuant to a first term on the Helena Housing Authority as a dwelling resident. Term will expire August 1st, 2026. Lewis and Clark Heritage Tourism Council. Appointment of Michael Hall to a first term on the Lewis and Clark Heritage Tourism Council as a city appointee. Term will expire June 30th, 2027. Parking Advisory Board. Appointment of Julia Gustafson to a first term on the Parking Advisory Board as a property owner. Term will expire August 1st, 2027. Appointment of Seth Brandenberger to a first term on the Parking Advisory Board as Business Improvement District Representative. Term will expire August 1st, 2027. Appointment of Joan Taylor to a first term on the Parking Advisory Board as Residential Parking Permit Holder. Term will expire August 1st, 2026. Appointment of Sandy Shaw to a first term on the Parking Advisory Board as a Downtown Business Representative. Term will expire August 1st, 2027. Appointment of Christopher Facundo to first term on the Parking Advisory Board as a citizen at large. Term will expire August 1st, 2026. Commissioners, any discussion? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Below. HCC appointment recommendation.
It is.
Sheila.
Sorry, this is the portion where is there an HCC representative that would like to speak about?
Yeah, that's what. So would you check online to see if someone raising a hand?
There is not.
Okay. Go ahead, man.
With your permission, this will be the last application you'll see for District 5. We still have 2 seats from District 6 that haven't been filled for the election. So hopefully we'll wrap this up soon. But this person applied for District 5 and we forwarded them on to you. So they're not here today, but if you have any questions for me, you'll.
Okay. Comments or questions for Ben? Go ahead.
Really quickly, Ben, do you know which area of town District 6 is?
I'm sorry.
Do you know which area of town District 6 is?
District 6 is the northeast corner.
Okay.
Kind of that railroad track airport area.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments? Thank you. Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council. You have the floor.
Mayor and Commissioners, for the record, my name is Ben Kuiper, KUIPER. Today, or we're meeting later today. Our meeting's at 7 to 9. We'll be seeing a recommendation on Davis Street dust abatement. And if that passes, we'll forward it on to you in the next few days. So unless you have any questions, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Thank you. City Manager report.
Yes, Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to ask Director Smith to give a very brief update on where we're at relative to resubmitting for requests for proposals for the fire tower.
Hi, Mayor, Commissioners, thanks for having me here this afternoon. Fire tower update, the RFP has gone back out to bid. The bid opening will be 2 p.m. on August 15th. Then based upon the bids received, we will report back to the commission at a future meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Commissioners, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director Smith, and apologies if this has been covered previously. Was this a limited scope? Did we send specifically to people, or is this an open, anyone can apply and we have no idea?
A hybrid of both.
Hybrid.
Yeah, known contractors with woodworkers have been sent it, and it's on our website for the public to look at as well.
Any other comments or questions for Director Smith? Do you have any public comments on this? Andrew?
Mayor, and again, with your permission, I'd like to ask Mr. Garson, our PIO, to update the commission on this recently distributed fire mitigation plan for West Energy and how we understand that plan is working.
Manager, Mayor and Commissioners, thanks for the opportunity to give a brief update. This touches quite a few different city departments, so we felt it made sense to give one update, but we do have several representatives in the meeting that can answer further questions that you might have about specific city services and the impact that a planned outage or unplanned outages might have. Northwestern Energy did share just before this meeting that they are not planning any outages at this time. I did share that out through our Facebook page because they had updated it there about an hour ago. This is a fairly new notification process for them, to my understanding. I think it's a good opportunity to encourage residents to go to their website and read the information that they have put out, so that we all have a better expectation of what it means when they do start to communicate the different stages of their plan. In talking with the county DES coordinator earlier, part of his feedback is that it feels like there's confusion about whether or not these notifications mean a power outage is imminent or not. And that's really at the discretion of Northwestern Energy and the process that they would work through. But continuing to remind people that they have indicated that they will notify impacted residents throughout the decision-making process, and so that businesses and residents should be receiving phone calls, a notification from Northwestern Energy as they start to enact and move through this plan. This did raise some, good questions about the impact on city services, critical city services, life safety city services. If we experience an outage, and in talking with our different impacted departments today, this is comparable to really any emergency that we face. We do have backup systems, generators, and other systems in place for our critical services like 911 dispatch, water, wastewater treatment, and so that the goal is that there are no interruptions if we do experience a planned or unplanned outage, or power issues related to earthquakes or any other disasters. We also spend a lot of time coordinating and planning with our different partner agencies from groups like the LEPC. I'm gonna look at my notes because I always forget the acronym. Local Emergency Planning Committee, which is managed through the county. Assistant Fire Chief Mike Chambers is an active participant in that. And our participation with those types of groups allow us to ensure that if there is an emergency where there's community life safety issues that need addressed, our fire and police officers are still actively responding to calls, as the 911 dispatch center has backup systems in place to still take calls. The radios are on different, have different systems available to be able to still communicate with our first responders. And then we can work with those, agency partners to make sure that Red Cross shelters and other, community resources are deployed and activated. But we lean heavily on organizations like the county DES to facilitate the full response if we have those types of emergencies. If you have any questions, especially about those specific critical services, again, we have representatives in the room that can help answer those questions. Yes, with the commission.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. More of a comment, but I think a couple of us attended a local government briefing that Northwestern had done just last month or the month before, when they were talking about rolling out what this communication system would look like, or what communicating the public safety, public shut off series of events. One of the things they said during that was that they would be willing or interested in the feedback of how they're communicating all of this and how they can be more helpful. So I think if we have input on how they might be maybe more helpful or better in communicating what could happen, I think that we should let them know sooner rather than later. Since this week is kind of the first time that we've had even the warning of it. And I just want to make sure that, if there's feedback we have, it gets to them now so that they can keep improving.
Did anybody receive emails from them to their personal email? Yeah, because I did. That's what I received email. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the only comment I might add to this, and I think they mentioned it in the email that was sent out, and we also got one, my wife and I did notification in the mail today.
Yeah.
That said the same thing, but emphasize the idea of updating your contact information with Northwestern Energy, because it sounds like email and text, phone would be the primary means communicating to customers of a potential power shut off. So just make sure your contact info is up to date.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a note which I had previously communicated. I did get 2 calls from community members who were medically fragile and concerned about their personal circumstances should there be a planned outage. So understanding that's not, that we don't have services to support them. Did Northwestern Energy, or do we have any sense of where we could direct community members who are concerned if it does move forward and they do get notified, where they could go or what they could do if they have medical devices that require power? Do we know anything about where to direct people?
My recommendation and experience, and Assistant Fire Chief Chambers or Chief Petty might have additional thoughts. I think the county DES department could be a good resource for people helping to identify what community resources do exist. They partner, with a lot of the nonprofits that respond in these instances, as well as the hospital system and others. And so from a government agency, are a useful resource in helping to bridge the gap for our community members. I don't know if you want to talk about, the process and an emergency people contacting dispatch, emergency.
Yeah, Mayor and Commission, yeah, it is a bit of a challenge. We don't want people to obviously call 911 in these situations because we're going to be overwhelmed. I think probably the message, maybe a part of the message is a little bit of self-reliance and having a battery backup and just being prepared, just like we tell people in winter time to carry stuff in their cars in case they have an emergency. And I would maybe just push that message a little bit, but there's not a ton of resources for folks, and our system would be massively overwhelmed by calls and responses. So sadly, large events like these are just challenging to any community if we have a mass power outage of some kind.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
with regards to that, I'm kind of figuring out what the direction should be. Is there a page that we can point to on our website that would have these resources like the Tri-County COAD?
Yeah.
That we can help direct people with just the DES, the county, etc., Red Cross. I just think that might be something that'd be helpful. And having a communication plan with the city and Northwestern Energy, so we get the heads up that we can also leverage our networks and our people that are following us in our news, whether it's the email list or it's the social media, finding a way that we can help echo that say, hey, there's a outage coming, and so we can help amplify their messaging as well.
Another point is this is an opportunity to direct people towards Smart 911, which is the notification that we utilize in the county that's not well attended, so to speak. So, I think we should push that message in every opportunity. Sure, get it.
Just a follow-up on the Smart 911 system. Is that initiated from county DES, or who decides to?
Mayor, Commissioner. It's directed from us when emergency comes in. Someone from our operations will send that out. And we're on this with a planned outage, probably not going to send it out. There's certain regulations, federal regulations. The IPAWS, I don't know what it stands for, but it has to be a massive like an earthquake or something that affects everything. And that will go out whether you signed up for Smart 911 or not. That'll touch everyone that has a cell phone and go out. So we're careful of what we utilize that for. Again, you don't want to just keep using because after people get notifications, they're just going to swipe and say.
Well, and I think that's kind of, what I understood from that briefing is that this is not necessarily like an emergency. They have had a change in policy, be more proactive to prevent wildfires because they've moved wildfire risk to their number one risk category. And so it's not necessarily like things are significantly different, but the way they're responding to extreme weather is different.
Right. Mayor, Commissioner, one more thing. Commissioner Reed's comments about the community members that might be not able to do that. I would still encourage those two folks, if something were to go wrong, to still call 911. Yes, our system is going to be overwhelmed, but if they are unable to plug in, if they have oxygen or something like that, they still need to get 911. We can still get resources there to figure out how we can assist them.
And Mayor, just please finally, I think with this being the first time out for Northwest Energy, there's obviously the opportunity for further discussions between our agencies and Northwest Energy on how we prepare for the Southeast.
Any other comments, questions from the commission? That's your report, right?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Presentations. BISPRA presentation, Representative Dr. Gregory Thomas, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for providing me with this opportunity to speak to you today. First, I guess a couple of housekeeping items. I'm not very vocal about my participation in other organizations outside of attending all of your meetings. So number one, as an example, Northern Plains Resource Council. I'm the anchor sponsor for their annual meeting in Billings. And I do that not as some sort of business thing, but because I believe in their mission. Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. When the Rail Authority was formed just over 3.5 years ago, I got involved because I saw this as something that can be very beneficial for future generations of Helenans. And, you know, since that time, we haven't yet had any luck with persuading the county to get involved in officially endorsing Big Sky Passenger Rail. So I have, in my own way, worked diligently with the organization as a citizen volunteer. I participate actively on all of the Big Sky Rail committees. I was appointed a few months ago as vice chair of the governance committee. And hopefully, after this presentation today, I will continue to be your Big Sky Rail passenger ambassador in providing more information about what's coming up with Big Sky Passenger Rail. When this was started just over 3.5 years ago by Dave Strohmeyer and Dan Bucks, what we heard from rail passenger groups around the country at our first annual meeting that was held in Billings was that it would take us approximately 25 years in order to restore passenger train service to Southwest Montana based on their experiences around the country. Very much thanks to the strategic planning and the smart efforts of both Dave Strohmeyer and Dan Bucks, we have proven them all to be incorrect. Because as of I stand here today, we have approval from the Federal Rail Administration out of 16 routes that were submitted last year to be restored for long distance travel around the country. What has just been officially renamed as of today, the Big Sky North Coast Corridor, was the only long distance route that has been approved to proceed into the Corridor ID program. And now that we are in the Corridor ID program, what that means is we have just received a $500,000 grant from the FRA. And with that grant money, we are charged with conducting our feasibility study, which is in the process. We're in the process of vetting the consultants that we're going to hire to lead that engineering effort, which is basically going to tell the FRA and Amtrak how much it's going to cost to restart all of the stations and to repair track and to enlarge tunnels, et cetera, in order to make all of this happen and to have trains rolling in approximately 5 years from now. One of the things we have here that we've started with, another project, we recently were awarded $15 million for infrastructure efforts in and around Malta related to Southern rail planning. And this is in addition to our $500,000 grant for the feasibility study. We have bipartisan support in Congress with both of our U.S. senators. And of course, we also have support from the U.S. Department of Transportation and Secretary Buttigieg, who recently visited Missoula and recently met with Dave Strohmeyer about Big Sky Passenger Rail. Next slide, please. And here you can see the proposed selected route that includes the Big Sky North Coast Corridor for long distance train travel. And this route, as you can see, does include Helena. And what we have here with a long distance route like this, the 750-mile piece that runs through Montana is part of the overall long distance route that runs from Seattle to Chicago. And as a result of this being the restarting of a long distance route, there is no cost to the citizens of Montana for the restarting or the maintenance of this route. Just like federal highway funds, the funds to pay for the servicing of this route come out of the budget for the U.S. Department of Transportation in the form of congressional appropriations, just like the federal highway system. So there are no hidden tax increases for anyone in Montana as a result of this effort. Next slide, please. Some of the high-level benefits of joining our municipal partner program for the City of Helena has to do with the good-paying jobs that will be created by the result of this rail route being restarted, both within transportation industry as well as tourism and other economic job opportunities. We will be building stronger and healthier communities, especially in our rural and tribal areas. This becomes a working tool for folks. You know, in Montana, we spend 5 to 7 months of every year under several feet of snow. And that means we have highways and passes that are often not passable and or not safe to travel on during those 5 to 7 months. Having this long distance route restarted with twice-a-day service in both directions is going to go a long way towards providing that safe transportation. We could have avoided the travesty that happened on Bozeman Pass a couple of months ago, where the people were trapped in their cars because of the snowstorm. And the reason that some of them were trapped there with medical emergencies is because they had no choice but to get in their cars during bad weather in order to try to get to their medical appointments. It's a very big deal. There's also the revival of small parcel delivery service using the trains. There's also stimulating new housing and new businesses near the train station, and better freight rail capacity and safety. There was recently discussion by the commission about a congressional bill regarding rail safety. One of the things that happens when passenger rail traffic goes on to lines that are typically only used by freight traffic, that automatically requires an escalation by the freight operators of their safety procedures, because they now have to be concerned about the passenger traffic that's traveling on those rails that previously only traveled with freight. And in addition to all of this, train travel, even with the current diesel engines, is a green form of travel. There's information on the Federal Rail Administration and on the Amtrak websites listing the various studies that have recently been done that show that train travel is 30% more green friendly than, as an example, highway travel. And in addition to that, we're also working along this entire route that was on the map earlier. There are technology hubs that are working on developing hydrogen fuel cells along that entire route. We are working with technology innovators here in Montana about hydrogen fuel cells along the route. So at the same time, we are simultaneously in discussions with Amtrak about the potential for them, since they're in the process of buying new engines and new passenger cars, to potentially consider buying some hydrogen engines that they can put on the Big Sky North Coast Corridor route moving forward. And the naming of the Big Sky North Coast Corridor route just took effect today as an interim approval from the Federal Rail Administration, because they're also going to be giving us some extra funds to come up with a new permanent name for the route, since the previous name of the old route was really completely inappropriate for the area. So I'm saying all this to say that we would very much welcome Helena coming on board as a municipal partner for the Big Sky Passenger Rail, and I would be pleased to serve as your Big Sky Passenger Rail ambassador to keep you up to date on, for example, grant funding opportunities. because the FRA pays for all expenses to reopen, rehab, and staff the train station here in Helena, as well as other opportunities that come up that the city might want to take advantage of from an economic development perspective. Now open the floor to questions.
Mr. Mayor, Dr. G, thank you very much for this. It's exciting to see Montana on this list. I've been paying attention this last few years. You mentioned the grants, et cetera, for infrastructure or for opening up, let's say, the train depot down in the 6th Ward. Is there opportunity? I guess it might be too soon due to the increased traffic. If we were to get this passenger rail, the increased traffic on the rails, potentially affecting areas like Montana Avenue. There's been discussions and questions about, could we do a tunnel or an overpass? Could some of that funding be utilized for some of that infrastructure?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, yes, it is very possible that that could occur. And actually, the current depot actually is currently in use. BNSF is using that depot for moving their employees in and out on their trains right now. So one of the things that Big Sky Passenger Rail can do is that we can facilitate discussions between the city and BNSF about how we reintegrate passenger rail traffic into that station. And yes, we can also initiate and facilitate discussions about how we rethink the traffic patterns in and around the station, including but not limited to coming up with another pass for the trains to relieve traffic congestion. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Dr. Rose, thank you for the presentation. What does it mean substantively to be a partner? What does that look like, and what changes if the City of Helena becomes a partner?
Well, Mayor, Commissioners, what that means is that it helps Big Sky Passenger Rail because it's another win that we can highlight to the Federal Rail Administration and to Amtrak, saying here's not only with Helena, it's very different than other communities because Helena is just not another community. Helena is the state capital. And we are talking about a major long distance route. And of course, it's the only one that won approval from last year's basic competition in order to get the funds to restart it. So having the state capital on board with the restarting of this route is a very significant statement, both from a community level and from a political level, to the powers that be and the decision makers at the Federal Rail Administration. So it means a lot to the Big Sky Passenger Rail efforts, and it will also be dutifully recognized by the Federal Rail Administration. Does that answer your question?
I'll see if I might just a quick follow-up. What is required of the city to be a partner? Simply a statement? Is it a letter? What does it look like?
It's simply a statement saying that you're looking to joining the municipal partner program, and we ask for an annual contribution. And in Helena's case, based on population numbers, that's $4,500 a year.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for the presentation. So I know I think it was in 2020, the commission signed a letter to I think we addressed it to the county, that we were supportive of expanded rail in our community. From what I understood, the county's reservations about participating in this, it was the unknown tax consequences for county residents, and what was included in the MOU. So should we decide to be a municipal partner, I guess, does that mean, is there an MOU that's provided for us to consider? And then my second question, are there any other municipal partners outside of Missoula right now?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, City of Billings within the past 2 months came on board as a municipal partner. And through the city manager's office, we referred the city to Billings as far as obtaining any sample language of, basically of a letter saying that you're joining the municipal partner program. And yeah, it's unfortunate that there's still this communication gap with the county for long distance train lines that we're talking about here. There are no local taxes involved because the money comes from the same appropriations pot that's used to pay for all of the federal highways that currently run through Montana. The only way that there could be any local taxes is if someone was talking about starting up a local train route that only serviced Montana. In this case, that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a long distance route that runs from Seattle to Chicago with a 750-mile stretch through Montana. There are no local taxes involved. It's congressional appropriations 100%.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. G. So Butte is out. Is that accurate?
Well, at this point, and if we could, Alex, if we could go back to the map, please. Yes, right up here, you see, there's this dotted line where Butte is. The challenge with Butte, there are approximately 17 miles of track that would have to be reconstructed in order to put Butte onto the route. And there are also some other issues involved there. So we will be looking at all of that in the feasibility study, and there will be a cost benefit analysis to look at, do they want to attempt to get Butte into the route with all of the reconstructive work that would need to be done, or is Butte simply going to be left out? So we will find out all of that information within the next roughly 12 to 18 months as part of our feasibility study process.
Follow up. So there is still potential for Butte to be a part of the system. Is it one or the other? I mean, depending on what the study says, is it Butte or Helena, or can they both be on this route?
It's possible that they could both be on the route if the Federal Rail Administration wants to allocate that much funding. But there's, like I mentioned, there's over 17 miles of track that no longer exists in and around Butte that would have to be completely reconstructed to make that a possibility. So at this point, it does not appear that's going to occur. But if it does, Helena will be one of the first to know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I personally would be interested to see what an MOU looks like in order to, consider if it's something we would want to be a part of. So if possible, if we could ask Billings to see a sample, I would like to take that step and for consideration.
Is there any other comments in that area in the commission?
Please.
To look at what Billings is doing?
Yeah.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I think I'd be interested in that. And I think we can probably look at some of the language that we used in our original letter of support. I was also just curious if the city manager has any thoughts, given you've been around the block when it comes to working with the federal government.
Geez,
Yeah, Mayor, Commissioners, I think this project has evolved from earlier conversations. In what, based upon what I'm hearing, we will put together a future discussion at an admin meeting, which specifically outlines the municipal partnership. I think that it'd be good to understand better the condition and the allocations from federal highways into this project, and what a resolution would look like and the financial commitments that you're making, so that you can have a more specific cause and effect discussion based upon your potential participation in this organization.
You bet. Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mayor, Commissioners, I see no hands raised.
Dr. G, we appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, department reports. Fiscal year 25, city assessment overview. Director Danielson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. I'm just gonna get my presentation up here on the screen. I'm not, but Alex is.
Mayor,
Yes.
Director Danielson, and this is kind of an expansion of the presentations you've made in previous years.
Yes,
Could you explain?
Manager Burton, yeah, in the past, I've brought just more briefings to the commission about the various assessments that come to you as you know, multitude of resolutions of intention and resolutions to pass each year. And this year, I thought that would be beneficial not only for the commission but also for the public. As we get questions from people, what is on my property tax bill, they get confused about what's a property tax versus what is an assessment on their property tax bill. And so I thought that this presentation would help clarify some of those confusions and answer any questions for people that are wanting to know a little bit more about their property tax bill. So this is just an overview of the assessment resolutions that will be coming before the commission. I have them broken out by divisions. So Public Works has 4 different assessments. They have the residential solid waste assessment, the water, wastewater infrastructure loans, a stormwater assessment, and then the landfill monitoring district assessment. Parks and Recreation has an open lands and an urban forestry assessment. Transportation Systems has their street maintenance district assessment. They also administer the actual physical work end of the sidewalk loan programs. Once those loans are finalized, then finance takes over the administration of loans, but they manage the projects. And then they also are responsible for the snow and ice removal assessments and or fines that are given to our residents during the winter months. Community development, they are responsible for administrating the renewable energy loans, and I am the lucky one that gets to administer lighting districts within the city. I haven't been able to delegate that to anybody yet, so I guess I continue to do it. That's what I get.
Those are part of the street. And Dave's not here, so I think it's obvious.
I will tell you, when I first got here with the city, I was like, what is a lighting district? I don't even know what they are. And it took several months between me and Thomas, the city attorney, and Steve, or Mr. Skiburnum, I think is his last name, at Northwestern Energy, to meet several times along with Mr. Runkle to figure out how to process and administer lighting districts. So now I am a lighting district expert. So the first assessment that we're going to talk about today, and I am also going to have the Public Works Director add some narrative, is our solid waste residential assessment that is pursuant to city code. The commission must set the rates annually for this particular assessment. It allows for the residential garbage and refuse maintenance in the city. We're recommending a rate increase of $2 per month or $24 annual for this assessment in fiscal year 25, which is actually tax year 24. The total annual assessment proposed will be $218.10 a year, up from $194.10 from the prior year. the cost of the assessment helps to pay for the weekly waste collection and the subsidy for participants in the curbside recycling. I'll make a note about that. I can't recall, and Public Works Director can probably talk more to that, but the Commission's aware that your decisions are to not to date pass any rate increases off to those that are participating in the curbside recycling program. So over the course of the years, the solid waste ratepayers have been subsidizing that service, and which prompted us to go out for debt service for the collection equipment, $1.35 million for debt service because of the depleted cash reserves. And then it also allows for the 3,000 pounds of self-haul waste to the transfer station. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Leland, Director Leland, to just talk a little bit more about the narrative of the solid waste master plan and all of that coming with this.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. We are waiting to have discussions on recycling. Right now, we pay basically $8.20 a month per resident that wants to be in the subscription. It's a subscription base to be able to get curbside. The City of Helena gets charged $16.20. The city picks up, $8.20 of it. The resident picks up $8 a month on that. We are going to have discussions on what we want to do forward with recycling. The the contract is coming up, so we need to go out for an RFQ for it, regardless of what we're going to do. If we are going to keep it private, we will have discussions. If we are going to take it as a city, do we want to do it private? Do we want to have it a city service? Do we want it to be subscription? Do we want it to be mandatory? All of these are going to come in the future as we get the solid waste master plan complete. So over the next year, 2 years, we will evaluate and see which way we want to go. But the status quo as it is, we are losing a lot of capital projects and having funds available for capital projects for the transfer station, for residential solid waste because of this subsidy. So we need to make it up and not go out for equipment as loans. We'd rather pay cash for them. So that's where we're at. And then we are also just evaluating a request for proposal for rate studies. So we are going to do a rate study on the solid waste end of things that has been carried over. And we are looking right now for a selection, and we'll be bringing that forward to the City Commission here in the next few weeks.
So, Director Leland, when is the contract ending?
The contract ends December of this year, but it has a 1-year amendment that is written into it. So we are going to take advantage of that. So we have another year for recycling.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have kind of two separate questions. The first one is on the recycling subsidy. So from what I had understood when we decided to actually increase the subsidy because the cost of it was going up, the idea was that to incentivize more people to sign on, and the more people that were signing on, the lower the cost would be. Have we seen a big increase in people utilizing this service?
Mayor Commissioner, at the very beginning, that was the whole thought of the subsidy, was to eventually get more and more on, and then with the economy of scale, that it's going to be reduced both for the city and also for the provider. We're sitting around 1,500. It's been gradually increasing, but we have not seen any great spike to actually see that as economy of scale at this point.
And I think one of the things, this was something that came up in those original discussions, I think there's just a ton of people who bring their recycling to either one of the locations or over to the transfer station. Like in my case, I'm like, I'm not going to pay when I can drive across the street and do that. So I think it probably would be worth a conversation of not necessarily eliminating the service, but I think if we could get a better bang for our buck and expand recycling more through other means, that's something I might be interested in. Or at least I think I was having the conversation of what greater waste diversion. And if we can do that by utilizing these funds elsewhere, I think that's a discussion worth having. And I don't know if that's included in the solid waste master plan or not, but maybe we can have that. I'm assuming the presentation's coming soon on that.
Mayor, Commissioner, it is part of the solid waste master plan. It is also part of the strategic plan that was completed probably now 2 years ago. So between those plans, we are looking and have analyzed the drop-off locations, which is the best bang for our buck, but it has some drawbacks associated with drop-off locations and then also universal curbside recycling. So that'll all be part of the conversation that we will have going forward. And is it universal or is it subscription? We still have that, and we can continue to provide.
Okay, and then my second question is on the collection, the weekly collection. And I'm not sure if I want to say Billings was doing something around this where you could choose to have a smaller garbage can for people who are just not utilizing the large ones. I mean, we have a mix of like the ones in the alleys or your own individual that's all one size, but I would be very interested in a conversation of how do we, one, can we get the option of a smaller can or a bi-weekly pickup? Like at my house, we put it out literally maybe once a month, like one Friday month, because we're just not filling it up. Like, other families might be. And I think I'm not the only one. I think there's a lot of people who don't fill up their entire garbage can every week. And so is there other ways for us to either get smaller ones or maybe less frequent, which could result in a lower cost?
Mayor, Commissioner, yeah, that is stuff that has been brought up during the solid waste master plan and also the strategic plan. One of the big issues, and I can say the 300s, as far as City of Helena, they really like the 300s. And last time we tried to remove them, it was
By 300, you mean
the big
in the alleys?
Yeah, 300 gallons that are in the alleys. We had an when we proposed to remove that. So we will be having public outreach if that's something that we want to go forward with. But the 300s are something that city residents do like. But
well, I'm thinking more so. Because those really are for like 4 or 5 homes in an entire block. I guess I'm thinking more about the ones that are for people who have individual cans that they roll out. Like for me, it's on Fridays. I roll it out like one Friday a month. Even though I know I think most people, if they could have maybe less of a cost or a smaller bin, it would make a little bit more sense to them.
But then would it be feasible to continue the program?
Well, is a lower cost to us if they're only picking up, say, every other week in neighborhoods.
Mayor, Commissioner, there is some reduction, but that's a much larger conversation that we will be coming back, that we can come back to the commission on. And there's some pros and cons to it each way and what the scale would actually be. We can do that analysis.
Yeah, that'd be it. I just interested.
I think one comment I'd like to make, being on the integrated solid waste master planning steering committee, one of the things that we've found relative to whether it's weekly waste collection, recycling, what have you, people are pretty happy with the solid waste management system that's in place. And so any tweaks, I think we need to really have some robust outreach, because maybe it's something that 5 of us think's a great idea, but there might be thousands of people who haven't been an active part of the discussion that really appreciate their weekly waste collection and the setup that we currently have. And I think that's one of the things that has really risen to the top for me in being part of this committee is we got a pretty good system. And people are pretty happy with it.
Sure. I have to agree with that too, with Commissioner Logan. We do have a good solid waste program. I'm one of the ones that uses the transfer station, and every other Sunday we're taking recycling over there. We're taking waste, etc. over there. But you'd mentioned Director Lehman. You'd mentioned universal pickup. Is there a part of the discussion? I guess when I saw universal pickup, my assumption was not everybody had it. It would have been where you can throw everything, cardboard, plastic, paper into one container and it could be sorted somewhere else. Is that a part of the discussion? Is that an option that we can take a look at?
Mayor and Commissioner, yes, that's exactly it. If we're going to do universal recycling, everyone gets a bin, use it or not. It would be single stream, which means that everything gets thrown into one and you go out and then you have source separated where you have a bunch of different bins. That's in the conversation too, and we can explain everything. The recommendation, if we go universal with majority of the other cities, is single stream. Not saying that we will, not saying that's the recommendation, but we can have subscription, we can have drop-offs, we can have universal. So those will all be brought forward and what our recommendation is.
Because I like the idea of maintaining the transfer station, having the drop-offs, including an opt-in type of single stream at somebody's house if they requested it. And maybe that's an additional charge, but I'm glad we're talking about it.
You again?
Me again. One of the things that the consultant did point out relative to universal curbside is it's quite expensive. And so I think they've got those costs figured out, fairly well figured out. And so when we get maybe our final presentation, we'll have a better sense of that.
What is where there's a request of a $2 increase per month? I guess what are the expenses that are resulting in that need for an additional $2?
I'm sorry, what are
the needs that are resulting? Like,
well,
that
Mayor and Commissioner, thank you. I mean, part of it is that not only do we have debt service that we're taking on for a $1.35 million loan, we did raise the rates last year to cover. The purpose of that was to cover the debt service. So, but what's also happened is inflationary pressures on the fund to fund the operations of solid waste and the continual depletion of the cash reserves. So I think the history of the fund, they've not relied on debt service to purchase collection equipment. They prefer to pay cash for that instead of having to take debt service out. And they would like to build up their cash reserves again in order to to avoid debt service in the future. And so that's the purpose of the request for the increase.
So one more question. Thank you. With regards to the subsidy of $8.20, with the upcoming option for the next year with the partner or the private entity we're working with, is there an opportunity for us to negotiate that rate? Or do we have to stay at the $8.20?
I'll defer to Director. We can set the rate, correct?
Mayor Commission, the expansion for the contract is going to be the 1620 with the one where we do the subsidy is always up for consideration, but from last time we were just going to keep this through the end of the contract.
Thank you.
You again?
No,
Thank you, Mayor. I love talking garbage, believe it or not. Garbage and water are very fascinating topics. The next assessment is also a public works assessment. So this is an older program for water and wastewater connection services. It was pursuant to resolutions back in 27 and 18, known as the Cannon and Granite Cost Reimbursement Program. This is not the same as the infrastructure loans that we have particular funds for. These were loans that were established back about close to 10 years ago. And then the Director Leland will also be bringing a resolution coming forward in the near future to expand the West Side Connection programs. But currently we have on these resolutions, we have 9 outstanding loans that actually go on people's tax bills. So we have to do the resolution for the assessment every year because it's on their tax bill. Those loans are outstanding right now at $112,850. And then we have 4 loans that are outstanding that people pay on their monthly utility bill. So with this particular program, the residents had the option of these 20-year interest-free loans to either pay monthly on their utility bill or twice a year on their tax bill. Any questions on this assessment? The next one is the stormwater assessment. This assessment provides for the maintenance, water drainage operations, and capital improvements of the stormwater utility. The utility area was created by the commission in 1991. These assessments are based on impervious area of lots and parcels. And so I can give you a layman's description of an impervious area, but I'm sure Director Leland could be a little bit more technical. But any surface that is not penetrable is impervious surface. So a building, a sidewalk, a driveway where water cannot seep through to the ground is impervious area. And so we get that information from the Department of Revenue every year on what the impervious area is per lot. We kind of have to do a little bit of math because it's based on, original permitted structures and then additional structures that were added or improvements that were added to the property. So the assessment is calculated on the impervious surface. For residential vacant properties, that is a $46.16 base assessment up to 2,222 square feet, which is considered an average residential property. And then there's an additional 2.5 cents per square foot greater than 2,222 square foot. Commercial and mobile home parks are a base assessment of $71.81 up to 2,222 square feet, and thereafter it's 0.039 cents per square feet. And the utility this year is not asking for any rate increases to the stormwater assessment. I will note that I had a conversation with Director Leland about this, and one of the issues of not, the stormwater utility right now has, adequate cash reserves, primarily because they haven't been doing as many projects as they would like because they still don't have a stormwater engineer to be able to manage projects. So for now, their cash reserves are fine.
Director Dennison, as we overview the assessments and methodologies that have been approved, in this group, the only recommended increase that we're going to bring forward to the commission is the solid waste.
That is correct.
So this is background information on each assessment.
The last public works assessment that we do, and you should be pretty familiar with this because we had the recreation of the district recently, but the landfill monitoring district was established in 2010, and then it was recently recreated in 2023 with resolution 2085. That did reestablish the special district. This is a special district under the Montana Code for another 13 years. So in 13 years, they'll be going out to us to recreate the district again, and I will probably be retired by then. So the purpose of this special district is to protect the groundwater from contamination. And oops, did I miss it? There we go. Sorry, and pollutants, and monitoring the cap on the landfill. And that's the limit to my expertise on the landfill monitoring. So if you have any questions about the technicalities of that district or what the assessment actually does, Director Leland is here to expand on that. The assessment pays for the annual cost, which is calculated to be about $186,000 for fiscal 25. It's a residential base assessment of $7.23. And then if you're a commercial property, it's based on the square feet of the property, with a cap of $150.70 with properties over 250,000 square feet. Next, moving on to parks, open lands is a district that provides for the maintenance and preservation and care of natural areas, wildlands, and trails adjacent to the city's urban environment for public recreational enjoyment. The district was established in 2007 with Resolution 19439 after citizens voted to acquire open space to enhance the quality of life and to offset development in the Helena area. These assessments too are based on impervious area of someone's property, and the boundaries of this district are reestablished every year. So you have a resolution to expand the boundaries as the city expands its city limits. We come back to the commission every year to expand the boundaries, and then we also come back to the commission to set the assessment for the year. It's a base fee of $20 plus 0.008 cents of impervious surface greater than 2,222 square feet. The urban forestry, this is another special district that was just recreated with the commission. It provides for the maintenance, preservation, and care of over 11,000 trees in the city limits, including our parks and rights of way and other city property. This special district was established in 2010, and it was recreated again in 2023 for another 13 years. It funds the annual cost of the district, which is calculated to be about $501,000 in fiscal 25. And the assessment is just a base fee per parcel at $39 per parcel. Next are the transportation systems assessments. So the first one is their street maintenance district assessment, and that provides for the maintenance improvements of our streets within the city boundaries. The district was established with an ordinance in the Helena City Code. This assessment is calculated per square foot of each parcel or lot above the base fee. And then the boundaries of this district are also reestablished every year with the commission by a separate adopting resolution. Residential vacant land is just a base fee of $206.16. Mobile home parks are $82.46. And commercial are dependent upon square feet. If they have less than 6,000 square feet, it's a $360 base fee. Anything greater than that, up to 1 million square feet, is 6 cents per square foot of the lot. The sidewalk program loans are just the loans that people voluntarily partake to be part of the loan program. This is for the tax year 2024. The city passed this program with resolution 12,075 to help property owners finance the building maintenance and repair of their sidewalks, gutters, and curbs. The owners that participate in the program agree to enter into a loan agreement and pay back the costs over 10 years with interest-free loans. Right now, we have 192 outstanding loans to be assessed for the tax year 2024, and they pay those semi-annually. The outstanding balance on those loans as of the end of the fiscal year were $454,350. We had 11 new properties within this last season come onto the loan program. Any questions?
So when the budget is adopted, do we know when the next round will become available for homeowners?
In the spring.
In the spring.
The transportation department, they have established that program to solicit applications in the spring of every year.
And we're still like $500,000 behind what the actual is.
I would have to defer to Director Kanopke, but I know that they reset the application every single year. So they used to maintain an ongoing list, but now they've established a program where you have to reapply every year, and it's kind of I think it's a first come first serve basis.
You know, if that's been communicated to the people who are, obviously, it's on there, but communicated to the people that were on it in previous years.
I believe they did have that communication to the people that were on the list, yes.
Director Kanopke's hand raised.
So, anybody got questions for him?
If he has.
Okay, would you put, please?
Good evening, man. That is a process for a house.
Are you breaking up bad, Director Kanopke?
I'll put it in
Okay. Okay, Director Danielson,
Want me to continue?
please.
Okay. The next assessment is our snow and ice removal. These are cost recovery assessments plus a fine. The cost recovery and fine was established by the city commission in 2015 with ordinance 3210. It allows for the city to remove snow and ice from someone's property. They are notified of the issue, and then if it goes unnoticed, then the city goes and removes it for them. If there's been a complaint, property owners are given an opportunity to pay the cost of the removal in advance, and if they default with not paying the city, then the city goes ahead and adds the assessment to their tax bill. In the last winter season, there were 11 property owners that did not pay their fine or assessment, so it'll be placed on their tax bills. The cost of removal is $50 or 30% of the cost of removal, whichever is greater.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
I'm sorry, do you have a question about that? Yeah.
Listen, thank you. With regards to the snow removal, is there consideration for senior citizens, special needs, or disabled individuals if they're not able to remove the snow? Let's say we have a snow plow going by and it pushes snow back in, blocks their driveway, or if there's sidewalk and they're not able to clear that. Do we give any leeway to that at all?
I'd have to defer to Director Kanopke on that.
Looks like he's still typing. Oh,
But it looks like he's still
There.
so I'm not sure.
That's me. Sorry, keep going. The CC. Cool. Thank you.
I know we did used to have a snow busters program, but I don't think there was much participation in that as well.
From what I recall, I think that I just remember when he did the report on them, it's mostly people who are being very deliberate in not clearing the sidewalks, and if there's the need for us to be helpful, we do that. It's like ignoring.
Yeah, I don't think it's, we don't, as you can see, with 11 property owners, it's not, I think that it also has a tendency to be for property owners that may or may not, maybe snowbirds or, didn't have an opportunity to clear the snow or are not paying for someone to come and clear their snow while they're away from their home.
Or they email the mayor and he comes and does it for them.
We're gonna get the mayor a golden shovel.
Yes.
Any other questions on this assessment? The next one is the renewable energy loans. So these are also voluntary programs for people to apply for the residential energy efficiency, a renewable energy loan program. They participate in the program and consent to an agreement to authorize a loan. The loans are 10-year interest-free loans. The maximum amount that they can borrow from the city at this time is $12,000. To date, over 56 projects have been authorized, and we currently have 46 loans outstanding. And the outstanding balance of those loans are $337,300. Any questions on that? I know it's a very popular program. And then finally, the lighting districts. The assessments are actually, I calculate the assessments every year. It's based on according to the Montana Code, each lighting district has to have a self-balancing set of accounts. So I have to make sure that each lighting district fund, we have 53, has enough cash balance in order to carry them into the next year and pay for their assessment. Sometimes, we overestimate and sometimes we underestimate based on their property tax bills, but it's pretty consistent from year to year what's required unless we have an energy cost increase, and then we have to increase their assessments based on that. Those costs are passed on for each person within a lighting district. The costs are passed on as a percent calculation per square foot of the property's proportionate share within that particular district. If I looked at the average assessment last year, it is almost 9 cents per square feet. After I finished this presentation and was able to finalize my calculation for next year, that dropped down to about 7 cents per square foot on average throughout each lighting district. Some are more, some are less. It depends on the number of lights and the number of properties within the district about how much that is going to cost them, for the lighting district. So if you have a lot of lights and not many properties, your cost per assessment is going to be more than some of the districts have, a few hundred people in a district and their cost is relatively small. Mr. Mayor. I wanted to give this just as a overview of what somebody might expect on their tax bill for assessments. This is based on a property with 2,222 square feet, and it doesn't include any loan programs, but you would pay your solid waste, stormwater assessments, landfill, open lands, urban forestry, street maintenance, and lighting districts, which is an average cost to each homeowner of $732.19 a year.
You're killing us. Go ahead, Commissioner.
On the lighting district, is there anything in the statute that would, I know it was a lot of, took a long time to get to the point of understanding and I just remember those resolutions at first were very complicated. But is there any availability? I mean, we do not, from what I understand, we don't charge for the, I guess, facilitation or maintenance of that fund or being the pass-through. Are we allowed to do that within statute?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner Dean. Yes, we do pass off administrative fees in those in those costs. Yeah, they're very minimal, but
so that goes to
yeah,
but not maintenance.
Not maintenance, but it's basically overhead costs. So a little bit of my time in order to calculate the assessments every year, in order to bring them to the commission with all the resolutions that we have to have. So it's fairly minimal, but we do pass off some administrative overhead to those funds.
Okay. Yes.
And Mayor, just kind of an observation, but did you notice that Director Danielson got just a little bit more excited when she was talking about lighting districts?
But sometimes you'll hear cussing coming out of my office. When I'm calculating lighting districts, or when Mr. Runkle calls me and tells me he needs to have a new district.
I hope you wrote down everything.
No, he's very good to work with. So yeah, I do appreciate him. And that's all I have for assessments, unless you have any more
comments or questions from the commission? Oh, so you're the commissioner.
No, but I do have comment from Director Kanapke. Sorry to jump back to that section, but the amount discussed was approximately correct. We have notified those each year that the program is first come, first serve, and he said that they can appeal the invoice.
Who do you appeal it to?
That's great.
Huh?
I'm hearing.
Andrew Burton?
Probably to me.
Oh, you're saying probably. That means he's not even sure.
I've never dealt with the appeal.
Yes, we don't need.
Any other comments or questions for
City assessments?
Director Danielson? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, would you check? Anyone online?
There, I see no hands raised online.
Thank you. Director Danielson, you can go on and continue.
Yes,
This
Mayor.
resolution.
Yes, tonight, I just have a discussion topic because we'll be bringing to the commission at the next, commission meeting, a limited tax general obligation bond. This is, debt service to pay for, the boiler and shop, the roof replacement out at the city shop. So, I do have our financial advisor online. If you have any questions for him, Mr. Steve Sharp from Baker Tilly. This particular bond is, it's a bank solicited, so it's a private negotiated bond. So we sent out notices to an RFP to 13 banks throughout both Montana and regional, and one national bank. We got 6 responses back. And in reviewing those responses with our financial advisor, Steve Sharp at Baker Tilly, we're recommending that the commission move forward with the proposal from Stockman Bank. I think it's a very favorable rate at 3.75% with an all-in cost of 4.11%. The all-in would include any administrative fees in order to move forward with the bond, like the financial advisor costs, the bond counsel costs, things like that, just to actually take out the bond. It'll be a 15-year note. We've set up payments to kind of agree at the same time with our most of our other intercap loans, which are February 15 and August 15 of every year. This bond is not secured by the city's taxing authority. However, it is not subject to non-appropriation. So it's similar to the golf course bond that we took out, that it wasn't, you're not required to raise property tax levies to pay, but you can't not appropriate funds to pay for the bond. So I want to make that pretty clear to the commission. The payment of this bond is being proposed to raise the shop rates for the benefiting funds that use the shop. And so in this next fiscal year, they raise their rates for each participating department, such as the police department and the parks department, and et cetera. Those that bring their vehicles to the shop and get repair are paying kind of a surcharge to do that in order to pay the debt service on the loan. And so that is the payment structure that we set up for this particular loan. We will be bringing this resolution to the commission at the next commission meeting. And then thereafter, we should be moving forward with settling the funds and beginning the funds in August. And at this time, I believe that the facilities director has already solicited RFPs for the boiler and is moving forward with that. And then he's working on getting the request for bid for the roof replacement out at the shop. So they're pretty excited out there at the shop to have these much needed repairs. And they've been waiting for quite a while. And so I'm hoping that with the settlement of these funds and the issuance of this bonds, we can move forward with getting that facility taken care of. If you have any questions about the particular solicitation of this or the bond itself, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, comments or questions? Do we have any public comments on this?
See no hands raised online.
Please continue, or are you done?
That is the end of my presentation here.
Thank you. Andrew Burton?
I'm good to go, Mayor.
Commissioners, any final comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
question for Director Leland, what, relative to the integrated solid waste master plan steering committee, what, remind me where we're at, as next steps and.
Mayor, Commissioner, is staff received a draft copy of the plan from our consultant. We reviewed it and had comments to go back that needed formatting issues, stuff like that, to get it cleaned up. And we're hoping to get that within the next few weeks, and then we will have another committee meeting to present the plan to the committee, and then we'll go out to the public on that plan. And so hopefully in October, we'll be bringing it to the commissions for approval.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
At this time, is there anyone from the public wishing to address the commission? Clerk, do we have any online?
Answers.
Commissioners, final comments? This meeting is adjourned.